Hi everybody, this is Rachel Neff, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about my two digital tools, which are iReady and Prodigy. So to start us off, iReady is something that I currently use in my classroom in my elementary school, and I use it for both reading and math. I'm going to be focusing on the math content today. So this is what iReady looks like when a student signs in. They're able to choose from either subject. Once they click on a subject, they're taken to this screen, which they can choose the left-hand lesson, which is their iReady pathway that is assigned to them based on their diagnostic test, or they can choose the blue icon, which is their teacher-directed pathway. If they click My Progress up in the top right corner, they are taken to this screen, which shows how many minutes they've been on task this week, how many lessons they have passed, and then just a breakdown of where they are within each math domain. If we were to click on numbers and operations, the student would see some of the things that they have been working on. So if we take a look at lines 3 and 4 here, just to draw your attention to something, the student will be working on understanding fraction multiplication. And you can see in line 4 that a student didn't pass that level or that lesson, so they were given that lesson again. The student then earned 100% and moves on to the next lesson after that. If a student doesn't pass the lesson, then what they'll do is they will go to a different lesson, be brought back to the lesson, and then if they don't pass it yet again, that lesson is shut off and that domain is shut off as well. This is what it looks like on the teacher screen. So I can see from my end what the student has passed, what they haven't passed, how long they spent on something, how long it took them, things like that. It also has a breakdown of where the student is in the different domains if you look up at the top of the screen. And these are the upcoming lessons for a student, the lessons that they're assigned, the domain that they're in. And if you take notice of where it says iReady assigned right here in the middle, that can also be a drop-down box and you can see the teacher assigned lesson. So if a teacher wants to assign some specific lessons. This is what I see for how a student is doing overall, how their growth is going for the year, how they're doing within each domain. And I can click on that and find some further information for lessons that the student could be taught and things like that. This is a broken down growth monitoring report. So it shows down here in the bottom, it shows the diagnostics, the growth monitoring, the scores, and whether or not the student has made growth on those. Now back to the student lesson. If they were to click on an iReady lesson, what they would see is they would be taken to a page like this. There'd be a little intro, but as you can see, this is what the lesson will look like. There's lots of questions throughout the lesson, and they can hear everything. Down in the bottom, there's a glossary, there's a pencil to take notes, and there's a notepad. And the calculator is not available for this lesson, but it is available for some lessons. It shows them the progress of their lesson, how much they've completed so far. And then just to kind of jump into this, the questioning, there's open-ended question, there's fill-in-the-blank question. So for the math part, they would do some math and fill in a number. They might have an option to choose from different numbers. And this is what the notepad would look like. They would write the answer. They could do some work on here. I do often have my students use whiteboards or scrap paper as well, as it is not as useful to use this. So overall, some good things about iReady. The learning pathway also instructs the students. So for example, they're receiving instruction on the different things. It's not just drill and kill. There are multiple means of data collection that are used. At the end of the lesson, there's a quiz. There's growth checks about every other month. And then there's the diagnostic tests, which checks in with them as well. I think the graphics are clear and straightforward. The colors are all very complementary. And there are multiple types of questions in the lessons. So for example, there's multiple choice, short response, and open-ended. Data is shared to a teacher portal through which many types of reports can be generated, not just individual student reports, but students can be grouped together with like abilities. Recommended lessons are offered for students that are struggling. Adaptive to students' needs. So like I said, if a student's failing, the domain is shut off automatically. Lessons are reassigned after each diagnostic and growth check. Teachers are able to assign lessons based on what they're learning. And this aligns to an available math curriculum and it aligns to PA course standards. Some of the negative things are students sometimes see this as a little over the top and too cutesy, too cheesy. I think that more higher level thinking questions and open-ended explain your thinking questions are needed. It's not as engaging for students. Diagnostic tests can be challenging and arduous. It is definitely not free. It is a very, very expensive um, digital tool. So for Prodigy, it is a free math resource. This is what the students see on their end. It almost reminds me of like that Pokemon-esque Game Boy Advanced era game. It's a little pixely. I think that's kind of what they're going for, but maybe not, so I'm not really sure. This is what the questioning would look like. They're all fill in the blank. There's no instruction on the content. If you get an answer wrong, you can only see the answer. You can't go back in and try to fix your answer. This is what the teacher sees on their end. There's the placement test window where the student has placed the questions that the student got right and wrong along with their answers, I believe, which I think is really great. And then there is a calendar that shows what lessons are being taught when and when they're open. So some of the good things about this is that there are learning pathways available. Data collection is used through the means of a placement test, which seems to be very long. It's very engaging for students. It's fantasy world, battling classmates and creatures. The kids really do enjoy it. And data is shared to a teacher portal through which reports can be generated. Teachers are able to assign lessons and they're integrated into the learning pathway. They're not separate. It aligns to a general fourth grade curriculum and it's free. A lot of the negative things are the learning pathways are drill and kill and there's no instruction. Like I said before about the graphics, I'm not really sure what they're trying to get there. And I'm worried that it's a little too much like a video game and will the students actually take it seriously? And it's only fill in the blank questions, so no multiple choice, no higher level thinking, etc. It does not align to PA state standards, but many other state standards are available, so that could be in the process. Lessons continue for as long as they're assigned, but not considering the frustration level, and it also does not take mastery into consideration. So it's kind of self-paced in that sense. Final thoughts, I really like iReady as the primary digital tool. It has great learning pathway, it's very personalized, and I would use Prodigy as kind of an extra lesson in there. Just so you know, I used a Google Doc to kind of organize my thoughts like this. I will be sharing this for everyone, and I hope you enjoyed watching.